So war is coming. The movie is turning dark, and it's going to be. There was even an article: is Saudi Arabia opened up planes to Israeli airspace for the first time? So now the Saudis and the Israelis and the United States,
and then the Saudis are secretly meeting with Israel every day in Cairo, exactly. And so they know how to put pressure on Trump. A lot of wild stuff behind the scenes, getting him all confused, telling me the war's coming, he's got to defend America, get it all rolling. And they go, sir, this will get us out of the Russia thing, even though it's not true. Be hardline with Russia, which is in Syria, and then get with Saudi Arabia, and exactly, and the whole thing unfolds.
Yeah, so we're headed towards World War III. I've told people that you're crazy if you're not stocking up survival food, survival water, Nacean iodine. I have it. I use the InfoWars iodine. People go, what supplements do you take? And I go, I take like 50 different supplements, and I do take the iodine because we have to realize that it's coming. And I'm not a doomsday person.
All right, we're going to your phone calls here in a few minutes. Mike Cernovich is our guest, but I'm very thankful for President Trump. I like the things he's done on NAFTA and GATT, the TPP, and tariffs on China, and the $4 trillion in the stock market, and the 2 million new jobs. I'm not going to go through that all. It'll take a long time. But markedly, in the last month, I've seen some big changes. But the big one isn't even that omnibus, because he got handed that by Congress. That would have stalled the whole government. It's big pork barrel. I'm not saying I absolve him, but I understand why he did it. Because it's used the cheesy Star Trek. It's like the Kobayashi Maru. Saw an article where it's like there's no good choice. Probably the least of but I get the principal choice, still shut the government down, but they would have blamed him. But now Russia vows revenge. The U.S. only understands force. That's a Kit Daniels article breaking it down. Kicking all these diplomats out, calling them spies, no proof, saying these people got nerve gassed by Russia over in the UK. Meanwhile, China flies bombers and fighters near Taiwan, threatens attacks against our ships. That's Reuters. Meanwhile, we've got the big news here being reported that even the FCC is talking about how the communist Chinese have infiltrated the companies inside the United States that control, through one central system, all of our phones and all of the phone number indexes. That's just one example. Overhaul of U.S. telecommunications database sparks fear of catastrophic failure. That's out of Free Beacon, but you've got to read all the way on page 3 how it was Chinese engineers infiltrating and getting the database. Now, I'm not on some China bashing thing, even though they're the biggest mass murderers in history. It's just that Trump's not going after the vaccines now, even though it hurt Barron. Trump he's only turned a certain amount, but if he stays on that course, pretty soon he'll be back to Hillary Clinton. And they're out to get him, and it's his supporters fighting hard and under attack, and the bullying and all of it. He needs to fire up and get more aggressive. He needs to be exposing election fraud in the states. He needs to be out there. Meanwhile, the Democrats are full steam ahead. And the more he rolls over to them, the worse they get. And so, again, I think Trump looks at mainstream media too much. I think the old Republican leadership does. They don't matter. I go out there in the country, and the young people, the Hispanic folks, the black folks, the white folks, they don't know who these senators and congressmen are. They know who I am. They know who Steven Crowder is, who's just exploding, by the way. Paul Watson, Mike Cernovich. They know who Jack Posobiec is. They know who my son is. That's who's popular. I'll be sitting there, again, with famous people and who are national TV hosts. No one knows who they are. They know who I am. And I'm not bragging. It's just Trump 71. He's dialed into mainstream news. And what Mike Cernovich said about he's obsessed with what Alec Baldwin does on stupid programs like Saturday Night Live, instead of when his people rally by the thousands and get physically attacked. That's the meat and potatoes. That's the issues. Instead, he thinks he'll virtue signal with Melania and go, good job, kids, protesting for safety. As if he's going to neutralize it. No, they're calling for his head. They're run by savage political operatives and get programmed and get a talking point sheet on record. They're not going to listen to you being nice to them. So, Mike Cernovich, what in Hades, before we go to Jeremy, Rick, and everybody else who I promise I'm going to go to, what do you think's really going on with Trump?
Well, you nailed it. It isn't that Trump doesn't care, it's that he is still in that old media bubble and he doesn't actually know who matters and who's influential. There's a reason that these groups are going after you and not Fox News. There's a reason that they want to destroy you. It is, again, you and I have talked about it. I wrote this article. It bothered people. I was kind of like what it's like being famous, and people go, "Oh, you're full of yourself." I'm like, no, actually, I don't. I want to be less famous. I'm actually trying to keep a lower profile. But we're more recognizable than almost anybody that you see on the so-called news. People are talking about the Stormy Daniels ratings. Well, when I went on 60 Minutes, 15 million people tuned in to watch, the most since Michelle and Barack Obama had done their special. I was the biggest ratings draw 60 Minutes had other than Barack Obama inauguration.
And Pele lost his job after it.
He was, well, because they realized that, and that's why they won't debate us. They realize that the truth is on our side.
Look what happened to Megyn Kelly. She totally botched it. She lost that show after the interview.
Exactly. And Trump was obsessed with Megyn Kelly for years, even though he didn't realize she was a paper tiger. These people are paper tigers who frame us and they lie to us. And if we don't let them lie about us and we actually say, no, actually, what you're bringing up isn't true. Here's what's actually really true. Oh, so, you know, you're actually.
Pele goes, you said Hillary fell down. He goes, yeah, because she did. And he goes, but the campaign says she's fine. You go, the campaign's a bunch of liars. And they thought that was a got you moment, but it blew up. That shows how delusional they are. So in a way, just like mainstream media doesn't get it, Trump gets it because he's like a throwback to McCarthyism and stuff in a good way. But that's only his instincts. When he doesn't follow him, he's in the crap house. He's just like mainstream media. He's just like old people. He still doesn't get it.
He doesn't understand new media at all. He has great, here's a great example that I use, which is why has Trump given multiple exclusive interviews to the New York Times, but he's never sat down with Bill Mitchell, who, you know, you're a controversial guy, I'm a controversial guy, even though the media lies about us, like I understand.
But Mitchell is very well spoken, looks great, right down the line, the perfect kind of guy to be in the Trump administration. No.
Right. Trump could just give the guy an interview and completely change Bill Mitchell's business overnight.
Bill Mitchell would get 10 times bigger, and that'd be nothing but good for Trump.
Exactly. And Trump doesn't care about Bill Mitchell. Bill Mitchell's on there, you know, Trump cheerleader, leads the Trump cheerleading squad. Trump doesn't care. Trump doesn't say, you know what, Bill, you're a great guy. I want to do an interview with you, somebody who actually likes me.
Could you imagine Bill Mitchell as press secretary? I mean, he's good on every topic.
Exactly. So even if that's not an administration job, there's no reason Trump can't sit down with him. That's new media. Sit down with Bill Mitchell, give Bill Mitchell that 1 hour exclusive interview. You know, but they don't want to do that. Bannon went on 60 Minutes. I told Bannon, I said, Bannon, you need to try to go on the Joe Rogan podcast or Dave Rubin or something during the Don Jr. stuff. And I said, you should go on Alex Jones and do new media. Bannon didn't get it either. So they
think like you get on the establishment, you've arrived. No. The few times I get on these big things, the audience doesn't even like it. Unless you totally overthrow the tables like I did on Piers Morgan. It's a joke. If I go on one little Christian station in Alabama and plug my videos, I would sell 1,000 copies. I'd go on CNN and plug it and sell none. There's zombies watching. It's background noise. It's elevator music. People are not listening.
Well, yeah, and actually NBC wanted to do a big interview with me, and I told the guy who seemed like a nice guy, I go, look, man, no offense, but I'm just bored with people coming in and trying to bring up irrelevant stuff because it doesn't move the needle for me. Being on NBC, for me, just doesn't move the needle at all. 60 Minutes, I didn't sell any books, Alex. 15 million people watched. I sold 0 books. None at all. So I'm thinking, my God, I went on HBO Vice. They spent 13 hours with me. 13 hours. I didn't sell 1 book of Guerrilla Mindset from that video. But when I come on your show and I talk about how Guerrilla Mindset has over 1,000 reviews on Amazon, and I'll sell 100 just like that. People go, oh, wow, over 1,000 reviews on Amazon? Like almost no.
Because we have an awake, active audience. It's a totally different world. And that's why they hate InfoWars. Not because of me. It's because of all the guests and that we're awake and we have an audience that's awake. That's why I keep telling the audience, you're the secret. Stop telling me how great I am. They see InfoWars and other outlets like ours and yours as focal points of awake people. And that's what they want to shut down, is that we're able to come together and realize we're not alone.
Well, and they hate the liberals, too. They hate Dave Rubin. Dave Rubin's channel is constantly under attack. They hate Joe Rogan because Joe Rogan is talking about Seth Rich and saying, man, this is really weird. The problem is Joe is so popular right now. That's why I worry about him. I think they might frame him for something. Joe's so popular that they can't go after him the way they've gone after the Rubin report. So Dave Rubin is a liberal. Jordan Peterson is a liberal. So even if you're a liberal, if you're waking people up and getting people to think for themselves and not be zombies, they're going to target you. So it isn't even a war on conservatives per se.
It's a war on independence. It's a war on independence. We'll be back with calls. All right, we got phones loaded with great people with great comments about the gun grabbing, about Trump on Russia, you name it. Mike Cernovich is our guest. Mike, you were getting to a point before we hit break. Finish up with that. And then I was getting into Russia, how the more he expands operations against Russia, the more they say, oh, look, you're just backing off, to get us off your back. And then it's just made up. I'm not in love with Russia. Communist China is so in control of our country at so many levels. I just wish Americans realized how perilous the situation was. So please continue.
Yeah, the Trump is not a bad person. The issue is he surrounded himself with really dumb advisors. I don't know, for example, if you saw this GOP ad. I don't want to single it out too much because it's a good kid, a high school kid. But the GOP goes, oh, this kid is going to use his tax cut to pay for college. And the answer is like, well, no, the college is too expensive to do that. And two, tax cuts aren't how you get the youth vote. But if you're the GOP, that's what they think. Oh, tax cuts. They don't realize, no, college kids can't write Trump in chalk on the sidewalk without facing death threats. That's what matters to
the issue is the free speech. The issue is the authoritarian left. The issue is that they're out of control. But the old elites are so used to living in freedom, they have no idea we've got a giant Bolsheviks infection.
Exactly.
Our leg is rotting off with green pus coming out, and the Republican establishment's playing golf.
Yeah, you wear a Trump hat on a college campus, they'll kick you out of class. There was a student kicked out of class for claiming that there were only two genders, even though that was the topic of the discussion for debate. There's nothing from this from the Republicans. There's nothing from this from Trump. So the issue is that Trump has buffoons all around him, GOP stooges. His number one advisor is now a guy by the name of Johnny DeStefano, whose previous job was driving John Boehner to spray tans. That's who he has. That's kind of the running inside joke, is how Johnny DeStefano, whose last job was taking John Boehner to his spray tan appointments, how does that become Trump's chief advisor? Well, it really does say it all. So these people are telling Trump, and this is why I threw a big fit about the omnibus bill. People go, Cernovich, you're fair weather, you're this. And I go, well, first of all, I'm not fair weather or anything. I don't work for the GOP. I don't work for Trump. I work for the people. And my job is that when you turn into a Mike Cernovich transmission, you don't know what you're going to get, because you know that I always bring the fire. So what I told people, though, is if you supported Trump signing the omnibus bill, Johnny DeStefano and all these other advisors are going to say, see, Don, we told you that this was no big deal. Your base wouldn't care. And then Trump would say, oh, yeah, you guys are real smart. You guys are real right.
And then they get more. No, I understand. If we don't stay on Trump, he will get influenced by the people around him.
Exactly. So when we push back and then that gets on Fox News, Trump goes, well, whoa, wait a minute. You guys told me this was a good idea. You guys told me the people weren't going to care, and they do care. So that's why we have to raise holy heck whenever Trump does something like the omnibus bill. But likewise, we don't want to be negative. And when he does great things, and he's done many amazing things.
Sure, all the stuff he was planning for 20 years, China, the economy, all this he's doing is that's what he believes in. But the problem is he only watches basically Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, as you said, the New York Times. They try to keep InfoWars, your material, away from him. And so that's why this is happening. We've come so far. I want to go to some phone calls here, but what about the Russia situation? I mean, that is really dangerous, because there's no evidence Russia nerve gassed these people, and now we're just barreling towards war.
Yeah, well, they've always wanted World War III, and it looks like we're now going to have a proxy war in Syria, and it'll be the U.S., Saudi Arabia, and Israel. I don't know if you saw this, but there are things that you can watch that if you're woke, you know what is happening. So there was a bunch of news footage of Saudi anti-airstrike missiles shooting so-called Iranian missiles, and then that went viral. And you're like, well, wait a minute. Why is that clip going viral? So we'll talk about the Trump-Russian diplomats, but something important yesterday happened that all woke people noticed is whenever you're starting to see a new messaging, you're like, oh, wait a minute, they got their talking points now from the deep state.
Oh, that's how, so I mean, they still attack us with stuff that Podesta wrote 2 years ago. You know, gay frogs, nobody died at Newtown, all exactly. So you see the new talking points coming out that Saudi Arabia is going to help in Syria. Saudi Arabia's got weapons to fight Iran if Iran attacks them. It's the idea that Iran's getting ready to attack.
Exactly. So you're now seeing these great viral videos, and I retweeted one of the videos yesterday. They go, the Houthi rebels in Yemen backed by Iran. So you're like, wait a minute, now that they're doing this brilliant propaganda because they're going to propagandize us into war. So war is coming. The movie is turning dark. And it's going to be, there was even an article, is Saudi Arabia opened up planes to Israeli airspace for the first time. So now the Saudis and the Israelis in the United States.
And the Saudis are secretly meeting with Israel every day in Cairo. Exactly. And so they know how to put pressure on Trump. A lot of wild stuff behind the scenes, getting him all confused, telling me the war is coming. He's got to defend America, get it all rolling. And they go, sir, this will get us out of the Russia thing, even though it's not true. Be hardline with Russia, which is in Syria, and then get with Saudi Arabia, and exactly, and the whole thing unfolds.
Yeah, so we're headed towards World War III. I've told people that you're crazy if you're not stocking up survival food, survival water, Nacian iodine. I have it. I use the InfoWars iodine. People go, what supplements do you take? And I go, I take like 50 different supplements, and I do take the iodine because we have to realize that it's coming. And I'm not a doomsday person. When people watch me, if anything, they're like, why aren't you freaking out more? This is a bigger deal than you're making out to be. But people have to have canned foods or survival foods or stock.
Well, I was about to say, even mainstream news admits that the billionaires are fleeing to New Zealand. They built the bases years ago. Now they're leaving. That's in the news. The jets are leaving. They're saying, we're gone. What are they thinking?
All this travel from Argentina to Antarctica. Right? What's going on there in Antarctica? There's all this travel and all of a sudden this newfound interest. What's going on? So when you watch the news, you're like, well, wait a minute. The news is now telling us that we should like Saudi Arabia, even though they sponsored 9/11. We just did how big of a arms deal now with the Saudis? I think $1 billion. The Saudis are going to get nuclear technology. Oh, the Saudis like Israel now. They're going to let Israel for the first time use their airspace. Oh, and the Saudis are shooting down missiles by rebels in Yemeni, given them by Iran. So anybody intelligent sees the table is being set for World War III.
Well, I got to tell you, it's an incredible time to be alive. And we got the left and the globalists trying to shut down free speech, trying to take our Second Amendment. World War III, Iran vows to obliterate Israel in 25 years as Middle East tensions escalate. It's all insane. You know, I promise to go to all these calls. We'll go to break. I'll go to Jeremy, I promise, and a few others. And I'll try to go some into the next guest that's coming on, the guest host with us, Gerald Celente, always informative, but a few more minutes with Mike Cernovich. Just briefly, we got to pray. We got to be involved. We got to reach out to the White House. You've got to call talk radio. You know, they hate InfoWars because we can force a story out that then gets picked up by the rest of talk radio and then Fox News. And so get these issues out. However you see them, however you take what we've said, make up your own mind, because we're not giving you talking points. We're just having a discussion. And let's raise this alarm about World War III, about a new Cold War with Christian Russia, about the police state here at home, about the attack on free speech, about the gun grabbers, about George Soros, and just realize that most of us can't afford a bunker or to run to New Zealand. I know I can. So please, let's pray for peace, and let's pray for a great awakening. Briefly, before we go to break, come back in a few more minutes with Mike Cernovich and calls. We sell products here to fund our operation, and we have the great nootropic Brain Force, which is about to sell out in the next few days, but I'm going ahead and doing 50% off because more comes in 2 weeks. $19.95. Other leading nootropics are like $50, $60 that are a similar formula. This is really high quality stuff. Normally at $39, it's a good deal. $19.95, it's unprecedented. InfoWarsStore.com, Brain Force Plus. Sign up for auto ship, an additional 10% off. It becomes a loss leader then. Cancel anytime. And we have the real red pill. That's the pregnenolone, the healthy precursor to all hormones that gets low in most people. Then it helps your body produce your regular hormones. And it's got a special formula that goes with it to help boost all that. That's 50% off. InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. So again, it's an incredible time to be alive. I personally think we're going to make it out of this with God's grace, but we got to be focused and involved. We'll be back in just 2 minutes with your phone calls. Stay with us.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
He goes to jail. He goes to jail. Lock him up.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
We are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
This is the heart of 1776.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Huge nationwide protests erupted once again on President Donald Trump's second weekend in office.
When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice. When America is united, America is totally unstoppable.
Donald J. Trump is now President of the United States.
And most importantly, we will be protected by God.
From the front lines of the info war, it's Alex Jones.
Oh my goodness, poor white people. Please, stop.
It's been sold out for months, and now it's back. It's MycoZX Plus. Lower price, more ingredients, because we scaled up, signed a year contract with an even bigger organic manufacturer and producer. Scalability. But now we're able to go at 50% off to $27 instead of $39, 50% off, because there's a lot of product and a lot of ingredient in MycoZX. Now, it's the other side of the equation. Everybody thinks about probiotics and how great they are for your gut because of toxins in the environment, pesticides, herbicides, but more importantly than bad bacteria that probiotics help displace, yeast mold creates slime walls. And once the candida and the yeast and the mold and all that get in there, it causes all sorts of serious issues. Well, this has got a bunch of concentrated herbs in it and compounds known to destroy that slime wall. Don't wait to start detoxifying your body until it's too late. Pick up a bottle of the new and improved MycoZX Plus now from the InfoWars store.